We have a guest joining us today. She is a finance expert.
How was financial literacy introduced to you at a young age?
Why is it taboo to talk about money?
What are some of the biggest mistakes you see people make on the road to financial independence?
How do you ask for more money in your job?
Are there any credit cards or point schemes or tips you would recommend?
What's the weirdest side hustle you've ever had?
Without knowing her budget, what do you think is something Natalie spends way too much money on?
Clothes.
Demoted.
Welcome to Demoted, everyone.
Welcome to Demoted.
We're talking personal finance today.
We have a guest joining us today. She is a finance expert.
She wrote the book Rich AF, The Winning Mindset That Will Change Your Life.
She hosts the Networth and Chill podcast, and she's way smarter than both of us combined.
It just reminds us why we do this.
It does.
It does.
It really does.
It does. There's some great people out there, some awesome people with some amazing resources. We all know you care about money, as do we, as you should, because you kind of need it to afford food to not starve to death, which is tight.
Yeah.
So she's going to give some tips today.
Growing your wealth, talking about money, everything in between.
Please welcome to the podcast, Vivian Tu.
Vivian, welcome to Demoted Podcast. We are so thrilled to have you. You're my favorite person on earth. We met in 2021?
Oh my God, has it been that long?
I think so. Maybe 22.
Yeah.
And I've been obsessed with you ever since. We went to the Taylor Swift concert most recently. I think was the last time we saw each other in person. Or was it your live show?
No, my show that you came and were my special guest, which by the way, thank you again for doing that.
Oh my gosh.
I really appreciate you. But most importantly, I appreciate that you brought your parents because I am their number one fan.
They love you. They're like, can you just be more like her? Kind of like pull your shit together. So maybe one day I can be more like you. But welcome to Demoted. Ross and I are so thrilled to have you here.
There's a lot of hype here, Viv, so it's nice to meet you.
Let's do it.
I've heard a million great things, and I anticipate a million more.
And Vivian, for the people who might not know you, which if you don't know her,
Shame
on you. Can you give us a little just intro to who you are?
Yeah. So TLDR, I am your rich BFF and your favorite Wall Street girly. I started my career as a Wall Street trader. Since then, I have become, a full business owner, media mogul, if you will. I'm really hyping up the brand here. But Your Rich BFF is essentially a financial equity platform. It's really important to me to essentially teach the next generation and people of this generation how to better manage, save, spend, and invest their money.
I have to ask, though, because there's one little piece you skipped there. You were in sales, correct?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of tech sales folks here on this podcast that are listening here. As one myself, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up.
Yeah, definitely. So I started my career as an equities trader at JP Morgan, pivoted my career into digital media strategy sales at BuzzFeed. So yes, I do know the sweet, sweet allure of a good sales commission.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Smashing that quota.
Exactly. I think there's going to be a lot of folks, the sales folks here that have questions or are going to learn a lot from you today. So I had to bring it up, especially as one myself. So
love.
We do try to suppress those memories. The pain and suffering of selling.
Of having a quota, but that's okay.
I actually don't remember any pain and suffering. I only remember seeing that check hit and being euphoric.
That's why you do
I've
it.
actually blacked out all of the bad memories.
That's good. God, compartmentalization is a great thing.
Yeah.
It's a great thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Only celebrate your wins. Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, let's start early age. You mentioned financial literacy, how important that is to you. Can you just talk about how that was brought about, how it was brought up? It's obviously very taboo in a lot of families. It doesn't happen. It still doesn't happen. Walk us through kind of how you got started.
Young Vivian.
Young V. Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up the only daughter to two Chinese immigrant parents. So no pressure or anything. But I was kind of always of the mindset of like budgeting, being frugal, saving, things like that are really important just because my parents are immigrants and we certainly did not have a ton of money left over. I was never want for anything. I had, safe home, shelter, food, but there were many a time that I was told no at the grocery store checkout line, at the mall, things like that. So I really focused because of my parents on the scrimping and the saving piece. And that's also like a lot of what we teach young people and women in particular of like, you can't have the avocado toast. No Starbucks for you. But I didn't really actually get into the growing my wealth, being more powerful, negotiating, demanding my worth until I got to my first job. And my manager at the time, she was the first super rich Asian woman I'd ever met. And, I was like, I can finally see myself with the dream New York City apartment that I own, with my cute little Yorkie and every designer bag under the sun. And I wanted to be like her for some, I would say, very shallow reasons, but ultimately it led me on a path of really understanding my money better and how to use it to my advantage.
That's great. And you dedicated your book to your mentor. Is that correct? We talk a lot about mentorship on this podcast. Can you share more about her, your relationship, any advice for people just looking for a mentor?
Yeah, and how did that come about? Did you ask her directly to just sort of evolve into that?
So it wasn't quite so much like, you're my mentor now, but more so like, she actually was a sponsor. And the difference between a mentor and a sponsor is the fact that a sponsor is directly related to your financial and career success. Like, she was very literally my boss at work.
Mm-hmm.
It started out as the fact that there were just no other women when I was a trader at JP Morgan. There was literally no one else that I could go up to and be like, can I get a tampon? I'm out.
Yeah.
And so there's just a natural closeness, but also I think she saw a lot of me in herself. So we started spending time outside of work together. I moved to a new city. I wanted to go out, and some nights I would show up to the outside of her apartment and I'd be like, hey, do you want to go out? She'd be like, nah, it's kind of late. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm outside of your apartment with a handle of tequila. You need to let me in. And she'd be like, what the hell? That's not what we agreed to. But, those little moments compound over time. And ultimately, she became just a really close friend. And even after I was switched to another manager, even after I left Wall Street, she and I have remained really close. She was at my wedding. She's been there every step of the way with me for all of the important decisions in my life. And I really look up to her like a big sister.
That's great. And I think finding someone who you value both inside and outside of work. We talk about do you like this person's life? Do you like how they treat their family? I think all these factors are super important with a mentor outside of just how successful they are in their career.
Definitely. And also just all of the intangibles that she taught me were so crazy. People are like, oh, well, she taught you how to trade. It's yeah, she did do that. That's her job to teach me that.
Mm-hmm.
But she taught me that if I wanted to go to Brass Monkey in meatpacking and I didn't want to wait in the line outside for the bouncer, I could slip the bouncer $20 and cut the line with my ID. And these little life lessons are things that you don't realize are rules for rich people, quote unquote. She just taught me all of these things. Never get Botox off of Groupon. You can cut the bouncer line if you have $20. And we joke about it because it's so silly and lighthearted, but it also really made me realize my worth and my value and what my time was worth and what that valued. And the fact that everything is no until you ask, and you don't have to just play by the rules that were given to you. You can make your own.
I love that.
That was what my mentor would say to me. You don't get what you don't ask for, and everything is negotiable.
Exactly.
Everything is negotiable.
Yep.
I love how you talk about in your book and just in your overall brand, the importance of talking about money. Why is it taboo to talk about money?
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes from so many other things like marketing, right? So for so long, we have been told as a society that talking about money is negative and taboo and bad and all of these things, when in fact people have been doing it for centuries. You go to any country club, you go to the first hole, you see two guys on a Wednesday smoking cigars, they just got some beers from the golf cart girl, and they are teeing off and they're talking about their investment portfolios or what their real estate costs or how much it costs to send their kids to this fancy private school. Why is it okay for those two guys who have a lot of money to talk about money, but Nat, you and I can't talk about how much you pay in rent, and we can't talk about what we spent on vacation, and we can't talk about any of the stuff that pertains to young people who may not have this unlimited resource. I just think it's really silly. It's a lot about how society talks about it, but I think over time, if we as young people can talk to each other about money more, we are more powerful. And I had this guy friend who worked at JP Morgan with me, and he was a couple years my senior. He was one of the younger people, and I asked him point blank, I was like, should I be asking for a raise? And he was like, yes, you idiot. Yes, you should be. But also just so you know, my biggest pay jumps were when I left companies and went somewhere else and was able to negotiate. And it's not just necessarily oh, women talking to women. It's talk to anybody who you feel close with. And so it transcends to like your friendships, but also like with your relationships. Like my husband and I, we've been together, it'll be 8 years in April. And
just got married.
We just got married. We are a normal couple. We bicker, we fight, whatever, but we fight a lot less than the average couple because the top two reasons why couples fight are sex and money. And we've never fought about money because we've had an open dialogue since day one. So I just think having these conversations around money makes everything a lot easier, but also just makes you more smart and more powerful.
Just one question off of that. With my roommates, for example, I feel like it would be so hard to bring that topic up of like, how much are you making? It's uncomfortable. Any advice to just start that conversation?
Yeah, I think, listen, like don't just slide right on in. Like you gotta warm them up a little bit. And so I think silly conversations around like, hey, I am having some trouble at work. Like I'm trying to get this raise. It's not really working. Is there anything that you've ever done that has helped you? Or, hey guys, I saw our rent go up, 20% this year. Like we should negotiate that down, right? And like work together as a team.
Yeah.
Just because the more often you're having that conversation, the easier it gets. But also, I think opening up with vulnerability instead of like, show me your pay stub works a lot better. So like if you want them to tell you something, the easiest way for you to do that is to offer up what your number is. And so whenever I go to, this is like such a New Yorker thing, but like when you go to somebody else's apartment and their apartment is nicer than yours, you always want to be like, how much do you pay in rent?
Yeah.
And I always open it up like, do you mind if I ask, like, how much are you paying in rent here? And then I'll immediately follow up, be like, because our rent is XYZ and we don't have this or this patio or this terrace or anything like that. Because I've shared my number, they're automatically going to feel a little bit more comfortable sharing theirs.
And I think with women especially, it's like find your champions. Like my best friends from college and I have this dream of starting our own company one day. And they're all like, Nat, just let us know we're going to quit. Like you start the clothing line, like we're quitting, like let us know, tap us in. And having that network of strong individuals
I love
is
that you
so important.
I love that your friends are talking about starting a company. Our friends are starting an island called Dude Island. Where dudes, it's just dudes doing dude stuff just with dudes. Like that's your dream.
Please.
Everyone's like, so we're going in on the island, right? Like, so when's the island?
This is like Mojo dream. Dojo Casa.
Yeah, fully. Please. Vivian,
ask me about Dude Island.
I am moving in with Matt, my partner, who you met. Super exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. While we've already had this discussion, I want to ask you, how should I approach talking about rent with him?
Nat, I don't know if you're going to like my answer because my assumption is that you would be the breadwinner in the relationship.
Yes, but share your thoughts on how you think rent should be split because I know what you're going to say and it's important.
I think that in a loving relationship, things don't need to be equal. They need to be equitable. That doesn't necessarily mean like you and I are dating. We find a $4,000 a month place. You pay $2,000, I pay $2,000. That's equal. It's not equitable. If one of us makes a lot more money, that person should take on essentially a prorated portion of that rent versus how much the other person's making, because then it's a commensurate burden on your entire financial picture. Because if I'm making $60,000 a year and you're making $600,000 a year, and I pay $2,000 in rent and you pay $2,000 in rent, I have nothing left over. And you're still going out for omakase on the weekends.
Yeah,
and completely agree.
I think it's really important to like be kind and have this conversation, especially for you as potentially the breadwinning partner. I would actually talk to Matt and be like, hey, I would like to live in a certain area. I have basic standards that I need this apartment to have. It's got to have an extra room for my workstation, for Annie to come over, blah, 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 blah. I need to have a closet that's this nice. And I know that it is going to cost at least this much money. I also recognize that you may have a more traditional job. You may not be making the kind of money that I'm currently making. So I don't want to put you out. I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable position. I want these things. So I'm happy to cover a little bit more of that cost. And I think this goes both ways. Like when my husband and I first started dating, in the first 5 years of our relationship, he was the breadwinner and had been for quite some time. And he always paid more in rent. And he always paid for more of our vacations and paid for more of our dinners and all of that stuff. And now that I am the breadwinner and I make more money, I pay more in rent. I pay for more of our vacations. I think it's just treating your partner how you would want to be treated if the shoes were switched, if the roles were reversed, because you don't want to put your partner in a financially precarious situation to then not be able to build a life together later.
I'm curious on your thoughts. So what Becca, my wife, and I do is we're in very different fields. She was in education, again, far more noble than content creation. But we basically said 85% of our paychecks go to a joint account. And those are different values because we just make different. We basically said we're going to take the same percent. And so like our rent, all of our shared everything comes out of that account. And like that just felt like, let's not punish someone for pursuing a certain career, going like a certain route, wanting to do a certain thing just because the money, like, you know, was different. But the contribution still felt the same. I'm curious.
That is exactly the same, except instead of doing it just for rent, you're doing it for everything. So she's paying a commensurate burden of her paycheck for groceries, as are you.
Yep.
And just because your paycheck's bigger doesn't mean that you are a more important member of this relationship. I can already tell by the way you're speaking about Becca and like what you guys are doing. Like you probably still take her input as 50% when you guys are making joint decisions together.
Oh, yeah.
But she just is, if she's in education and you are making money in content creation and having a very lucrative career right now, like it's great that you're able to cover a little bit more. And those are your expenses together. And it's nice that I like that you guys said only 85% goes in that joint account because now you each still have your own money.
Yep,
and
exactly.
This would never happen with you, but I've gotten so many DMs from so many domestic violence survivors.
Yeah.
And I get messages that are like, I have an abusive partner. I can't leave because I don't have money.
Yeah. Financial abuse is a
breaks
thing
my
too.
heart.
You know, financial abuse is a huge thing in that situation. The power of finance is massive. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And I like that, you know, having your own money is really important, not just even for like that horrible case scenario, but like, what if she wants to go get her nails done? What if you want to go play a round of golf? What if you want to go grab a beer with friends? Like you guys can do that and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%. A lot of people talk about wanting to be financially independent, but what are some of the biggest mistakes you see people make on the road to financial independence?
Well, first and foremost, I would say everybody talks about debt like it's this end-all be-all thing. You can't have debt. You need to wipe all your debt before you can do anything else. It's not true. There is scarier and growier debt, and there's like more innocuous debt. So like things like credit card debt that have like a 20 to 30% APR. Yeah, you want to get that paid down ASAP Rocky.
Yep.
But we talk so much about student loan debt. If you graduated school like roughly around when I did, you know, that's so embarrassing. Like almost a decade ago. Ew.
Let's not forget I'm 35. I'm 35 here. Let's just like not. You know, let's not forget everyone. Okay. All right.
Oh, wow.
I'm still here.
I feel a lot better about myself now.
I'm still here.
If you graduated school around when I did, like federal student loan rates were 3, 4, 5%. Those are pretty low.
Yeah.
And honestly, like you don't need to be in a rush to pay that off. You can continue to make the minimum payment and ride that loan for as long as possible and use those additional funds to like invest, to save, to do all the other things in your life that you want to do. And so I think categorizing debt of like high interest rate debt and low interest rate debt, like stuff that we have to get paid off right away versus stuff that we can slow roll while living the rest of our lives is really important. One. Two, another big question is like, okay, so I put my money into my Roth IRA. I'm invested. What now? No. You are not invested.
Mm-mm.
You have literally put cash into
you actually need to invest it.
You actually need
people
to do
just
the
let
investing
it sit there.
part.
Oh,
like
God. Yeah.
People let it sit there.
Yeah.
And they're like, you are such a, scammer. I put money into my Roth IRA a year ago. I haven't even seen a single dollar increase. I made like 40 cents, you idiot. I have literally gotten comments like that. And I'm like, curiosity.
Did you invest it?
What you invested in? And they're like, I told you, a Roth IRA. I'm like, no. The Roth IRA is the account. What did you buy? And they were like, buy? What do you mean? And I'm like, oh no, like your money sat in cash reserves for a full year. You need to take the cash that you put into those investment accounts and actually buy stuff. I'm talking like index funds. I'm talking sector funds. I'm talking about like, like bonds. I'm talking about any sort of asset class that is an actual investment, not just the account. So if you are quote unquote investing, make sure you are actually invested.
That's a
It's
tough
a
one.
great
That's
tip.
tough.
It's a tough one, but
That's tough.
I've heard it countless times as well. It's not that uncommon.
Yeah.
It's so true. You think you do the thing.
It's really not.
And you're
it's crazy how many highly educated people make mistakes around financial things like this.
Yeah.
It's wild, you know.
It's wild. And then I'd say the last thing is, this is also something that I think probably the three of us are guilty of. Lifestyle creep. You gotta really look out for the big bad lifestyle creep monster. Wow, that is incredibly rude.
Why are
Ross
you
is
pointing at
Natalie.
me? Why are you pointing at me?
I mean, the creep has
Rude
crept.
but true.
I live with roommates at age 28 years old. I do not have lifestyle creep at all.
So, I think, you start making a little bit more money, you start spending a little bit more money, and at the end of the year, and you're like, how is it possible that I still have no money saved? It's because you spent it. This definitely happened to me in my early 20s. When I started making more money, I was like, oh, suddenly I need a nicer apartment, and I would love this bag. And instead of cooking, I'm just going to go out to eat every single night. And I also want to get my nails done, and instead of the regular, I'm going to get gel, and then I'm getting French dip or whatever it's called. And then I have to get my lashes done. And it's like, where did all of your money go? And it's like, oh,
but you're
you
hot.
spent it. So
You're hot.
Right.
I was. I was.
I
very.
agree.
Hey, now it's a business expense for us, Viv, right? Keeping up
That's
our
right,
appearance.
baby. That's right.
What do you think about the opposite problem? I know that's probably a worse problem, but the opposite one where it's like you're just saving all this money. You never want to spend because it's like I can never spend it because I need to have it.
That's Ross. Ross won't spend a
Finger
cent.
That's a guy I know. There's a guy I know who
switch.
does that where it's just like no, I can't because I got to get to the end game, and I know the end game, whatever the hell that means. I'm still not going to spend it.
Ross will be 100 years old, laying on a pile of cash and about to die.
Yeah.
A mattress on the floor. Yeah. Hey, it works. Okay?
No headboard.
No headboard.
Exactly.
Because
I got a headboard now. I grew up a little bit.
Good.
That's because you have a wife.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, absolutely.
That is correct.
Oh, I would say for the opposite problem, you really want to pick a couple things that you value and don't be shy about spending on them. So
Golf.
Okay, so Russ, you don't want to spend money on clothes. You don't want to spend money on home decor, but what do you enjoy? You said golf, right? You want to be able to golf. Golfing is not cheap. Getting new clubs is not cheap. Getting the grips outfitted is not cheap. I know all these things because my husband is spending money on it.
We
you
share
can spend
a
on
problem.
that,
We
but
have the same
also
problem.
what if you want to spend on experiences? You can fly business. You can go on a nicer vacation, take your wife on that nicer vacation. I wouldn't necessarily start spending more in every category, but sit down with her and actually pinpoint 2 or 3 categories that really, really is where you guys derive your most joy.
We both
and
need to
spend
do
on
that because
those.
we are both that problem. We both are the same problem.
We went on a all expenses paid work trip. We did a live show in DC and everything was covered by the company, which for me, I'm Jeff Bezos. We're going to the nicest meal. We are spending because you know what? That's $100 million company. They can afford it. Ross and Beck.
How much does the earth cost?
How much does the earth cost? We're going to run it and then we're going to put it in the invoice.
I went to Wendy's last night on the way back from my expense.
Ross and Becca refused to spend a cent the whole time. They put their own card down for incidentals. It's a problem. Vivian will probably take this offline, but when someone else is paying for me, I'm sure as shit gonna buy a bunch of stuff.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
At least take some advantage. I know. I agree. I'm the problem.
Ross, we need to stimulate the economy,
I
especially
know.
when the client's paying.
I know. You're not wrong. You're both very right. All right.
I have a question here. So how do you negotiate for what you're worth in your workplace?
Yeah, I would say always have receipts. It's easier to ask for what you want when you have proof to back it up. So the big thing that I encourage everybody to do is create a new folder in your inbox. We all get emails and make a brag book. Name a brag book and then the year. And so anytime a client emails, it's like, oh my God, couldn't have done it without Ross. Or you have an internal manager who's like, Natalie is the best. This is why. Forward those emails with the numbers, with the quantitative results of what you have done. Of oh, you grew sales 20% year over year, or the Instagram has increased in following by 30%. That way, when you have to go write those annoying as hell reviews of yourself at mid-year and end of year, it's what are 2 strengths and 1 weakness or whatever? You literally have facts and figures to back up your strengths. So that way, when you go in and say, I'd like to discuss my compensation, I've been able to do X, Y, and Z, and I believe a raise of this much is commensurate with the value that I'm bringing to the team. You can make it as a statement versus I think I deserve this. It's like, well, nobody thinks. You have to know, but also you have to be able to prove why you're worth it.
I love that. And what percentage typically should people be asking for with a raise?
I say ask for 10 to 15% every damn year. I know people always tell me that's like, wow, that's like so high. That's ridiculous. Like, yes, I know there are certain industries where raises are a little bit more standardized, but if you work in corporate, like ask for 10 to 15% because they're already going to naturally offer you 2 to 3% as an inflation raise. But transparently, that's like not really even covering inflation these days. And if you want to see a meaningful jump in your pay, if you ask for 10 to 15 and end at 8 or end at 12, you're still in a much better position. You don't have to get 10 to 15 every single year, but you need to be asking for it.
Yeah. You don't get what you don't ask for.
Okay. Vivian, this is exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do this segment called Dear Demoted. People write us in. They want, work advice, life advice, mostly work advice because we're not great as good with the life advice stuff. So this is one that I think we both think would be really interesting for you. We're really curious how you would answer it. This is from the Moterheads. That's what we call our fans. They're not automobile fans. They're demoted. It's a stretch, but we use it. So we love them. And Nat, we both are terrible readers. So if this takes your 9 tries, like
this might take 9 tries.
I can't judge because it take me 10.
Hope you don't have any other plans today.
Yeah.
Buckle up. This one says, Natalie said something interesting. She's motivated by money, partially because people tend to argue about money in marriages. So if you don't make enough, it could lead to divorce. The inverse is also true. If we look at Bezos and Gates and basically 85% of all the rich co-founders and execs I've ever worked for, they wear divorces on their sleeves like a badge of honor. So what's the ideal income range for a happy marriage?
Wow.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's a really, really thoughtful question. I think we are always looking to find that perfect equilibrium of income versus what sacrifices you have to make to get that income, right? So on the bottom half of that spectrum you mentioned, if you're not making enough money as a couple, like, yeah, you're going to fight. You're going to fight over the rent. You're going to fight over grocery bills. You're going to fight over every little single dollar spent. And that's not good. The more you fight, the more likely you are to have a troubled relationship. On the other hand, you've got these gajillionaires who have more money than God, but at what cost?
Yep.
They've likely had to sacrifice a lot in their personal lives. They're probably not seeing their partners as much as they would like to or should. They're probably not helping their partners raise any sort of familial structure of children or pets or anything like that. And, being on the road that often, like, I'm not going to point fingers and like say anything, but like there is an opportunity for infidelity, which again is another leading cause of separations. So is it necessarily 50% of the way there? Like you have to have, $500 million? Certainly not. I think the amount of money that is optimal is to have at least enough to meet all of your basic needs, plus enough discretionary spending that you can actually enjoy your life. At that point, you have to think about every incremental dollar because there will likely be diminishing marginal returns of, hey, the more I work, the more money I make, but the less that money really means to me.
Yep.
Is there a dollar value? I can't put my finger on it. It would also differ depending on where you live and the cost of living in that area. But you want to make sure your basic needs are met. You have enough for some discretionary expenses, enough that you can fund, vacations, what your kids like might just be asking for and needs. You don't need to have a private jet to be happy, but you do need to have enough so that money doesn't become a sore subject in your relationship, but that also can't come at the expense of you completely disregarding your partner as like last priority.
It's a great answer. That equilibrium of like lifestyle sacrifice and like what you need to live the lifestyle that you want. I guess both of you, right? Because that can sometimes be a mismatch as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll do a private jet.
Which,
for me,
I'm going to agree to agree.
Is that tied to my happiness? Yeah, no. I love you, United. Thank you for sponsoring me. Okay. We are going to get into the rapid fire section. These are quick questions with quick answers.
Yeah.
Ross, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So my issue with money is I'm a degenerate. I love the stock market. I deploy all my cash. I just never sell anything. But that's a different problem than this question. There's a lot of first-time investors. How should they think about getting started?
If you want to get started investing and you don't know what to invest in, you don't know how to do it, just utilize a robo-advisor. Technology has taken over every other part of our life. You take a quick quiz online at a robo-advisory firm. You will tell them how much you make, how much you want to have in retirement, how much you spend, how much you save, da-da-da-da. They go beep, boop, 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 and spit out a portfolio that makes sense for you. Easy peasy. You're done in 45 minutes.
Is it a wise investment for Ross to continue dumping all of his money into crypto?
Okay.
No.
Depends which one.
So listen.
Haktua coin was...
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
So yes, I was going to say there's a difference in investing in something like a Bitcoin versus something like a Haktua coin. So here's the reality. Crypto is only worth what people are willing to accept in the form of payment and what other people think it's worth as well. So Bitcoin has underlying value because there are now a bunch of retailers that will take it. Yep. Same thing with things like Ethereum and even Solana. Who was going to accept Haktua coin as a form of payment? What were you going to buy with that? Like you're saying the word cryptocurrency. It's supposed to be currency. You are supposed to be able to trade that thing for something or an experience.
I do think they were working on a partnership with Dude Island. They were like working on a partnership with Dude Island.
Oh my God.
So there was potential.
Okay. So I think crypto, especially the ones with underlying value, can be a healthy part of a portfolio, but I wouldn't have more than 1% to 5% of my portfolio in crypto. It's just a personal choice. I think it's incredibly volatile and I have other investments that I'd like to make.
Love that answer.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, is thinking about asset allocation by percentage. We don't have to go too deep into that, but I love that answer. Are there any credit cards or point schemes or tips you would recommend?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of using credit card points to my advantage. We did our honeymoon flights to Thailand, 100% in points, paid maybe like a couple $100 out of pocket for the taxes and fees, but it was genius. Like, it's amazing. And I think a lot of these cards have welcome bonuses. So especially if you have like a big expense coming up. So like for us, our wedding, I put my wedding dress on a credit card and that was not cheap. And so if you have a credit card that you open up right before a large expense or large thing, like if you're furnishing a house or furnishing an apartment, or you know that you are adopting a dog and like have a bunch of expenses coming up for said dog, like you can use that as a pivotal moment to qualify for that welcome bonus, because you do need to spend a certain amount within the first 3 to 6 months. But that can get you a really, really husky point redemption. And then once you get that bonus, like I would just try and book like flights or hotels as early as possible out, because you'll probably get the best point redemption. So you can spend the least number of points for the maximal enjoyability.
I let my points build up. I have no idea what to do with them.
I'm just points. What are we doing?
What do I do? They're sitting there.
Should
I
use
them?
You shouldn't.
I know.
Shouldn't, because a lot of these airlines and these hotel chains, they are devaluing their point systems more and more over time. So you got to be spending them.
But then don't you like not get that flight credit like towards your loyalty for the next year? That's where I think that's true. On United, is that not true? If you spend points, like you don't get your PQPs or see that?
Yeah,
that's terrifying for me.
That's fine, because
it's a free flight.
Why? Because
I know.
Also, hot take, but airline loyalty is like kind of a scam now, because hear me out.
Earmuffs, Natalie.
Airlines used to bump up their like loyalists from economy to first or whatever, like a lot more often. It used to be like 80% of the seats in business were given to loyalists, 20% were being paid for in cash by human beings. Now it's pretty much the opposite, in that 80% of business class flights are being sold, because these airlines have gotten so good with that technology to kind of know exactly what they need to be charging so that they can sell as many of them as possible. And only 20% of those upgrades are clearing. And so unless you are the very literal top tier loyalty, you're probably not getting that upgrade. And like realistically, if it's a flight that you need to be flying lay flat, or it's really important to you because you have a big meeting right after you get off the plane or something, like you would just be better off either paying for that business class seat in points from jump, or paying for the business class seat outright, or just booking an economy seat and then upgrading closer to the flight date.
Right.
But I just don't think like airline loyalty really pays off anymore. Like, I'll be honest, like I have loyalty to some extent with every single airline because I fly that much, but like it hasn't really paid off in spades. Like if I want to fly economy, I'm probably flying economy. And if I want to take a business class flight, I'm taking a business class flight. But like a free upgrade, that is few and far between.
I like that hot take, actually.
That's true.
That's true.
Don't get me started on hotels.
Too soon.
Too soon for me.
Here's a question. Weirdest side hustle you've ever had?
I was a club promoter in college.
No way.
Yeah. So I would, and this was so funny because I wasn't even 21 at the time, but I would stand outside of this bar so this was like during the summer. Chicago's on a quarter system, whereas like most schools are on a semester system. But during the summer, a lot of people would stay in Chicago for internships, stuff like that. And I worked at this company where I was basically a club promoter, and I would stand outside of a bar and wristband people.
Which
and
bar?
I knew for every single, like,
Bottled
it was
Blonde.
called like Slate.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Bottled Blonde. Oh my God. Every time I'm at Bottled Blonde, I'm like, I need to get out of here.
Get out.
But also like I would stand outside of this bar and I would like put wristbands on people. And I knew for every wristband that got put on someone, I would get $5. And I loved being a club promoter because it was literally sales.
I was going to say, sales job right there's your commish.
That's commish.
Yeah.
Like, I knew. I was like, okay, so I got 80 people into this bar, 80 times 5. And I was like, that's what I made tonight. And like, I don't know. I liked it. Certainly not sustainable for a career for me, but like it was cool while it lasted. I made good money.
I love that.
That's great. Without knowing her budget, what do you think is something Natalie spends way too much money on?
Clothes.
Clothes is true.
For sure.
Clothes is true.
But you know what? I think like, here's my thing, especially in our business, Natalie does a good job, I would say, balancing between buying her own clothes and styling herself versus spending on styling, which can get very, very expensive very quickly. She needs to have typically a larger wardrobe than the average person. So I'm not going to knock that against her, but like, you know, a Newly subscription, Rent the Runway wouldn't kill a gal.
Would you say yours is slightly larger than the average wardrobe?
I would say my wardrobe is so large. Matt's going to have a closet outside in our apartment. I don't know how he's going to fit his clothes in there. There's 3 closets. I need them all. Absolutely overspending. Absolutely. What was the worst purchase decision you've ever made?
I mean, it's like a bunch of stuff. It's like the Theragun, the red light mask.
The Theragun is brilliant.
The random beauty, home, miscellaneous tech, like the weird kitchen, like the Vitamix blender, like all of this like tech stuff that I think is going to like suddenly change my life and like make me healthier, make me never sore again, make my skin perfect. Let's be real. I'm not using it nearly often enough to like make the cost worth it because they're like $400, $500, $600 a pop. And I'm like, how many times have I actually used that red light mask? Like twice.
Would you say you're a consistent victim of like IG ads? Just seeing that stuff pop up.
Yes. Yes.
It's gotten so good.
I am a marketer's wet dream. Like, like I will click on anything.
Yeah.
Same.
And it's deeply a problem.
I'm a consumer. I'm
you guys stimulate the economy and we thank you for it.
And that's what we're doing.
Wait.
You guys, you know, and we need that. If someone early in their career came across a large lump sum, let's just say $100,000 for the sake of a round number, what is the most boring, conservative, strategic way they should go about deploying it?
Yeah. Okay. So a couple things. We'll go over my strip method, which is how I feel like everybody should be managing their money from like a baseline point. So $100,000 falls in your lap. I would say first and foremost, if you're single, you want to have 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high yield savings account. So make sure to set that cash aside. That is your emergency fund. That's your rainy day fund. Then I would take any money that I have and pay off high interest rate debt. So I'm talking mostly credit card debt and oftentimes car loans. So we're going to get that paid down because that is building up debt faster than I can earn it somewhere else. Once I do that, I'm going to start investing my money in all of the retirement accounts that are tax advantage because I love tax advantages. So that's our retirement. In addition to that, it's kind of the I piece of income and investing. So one, like actually making sure I'm investing that money, making sure that it's working hard for me in those accounts, but also like even just because $100,000 fell on my lap doesn't mean I can afford to stop maximizing my income. This is actually the best time to take those big swings because I have something to fall back on. So asking for those raises, being really smart. And then P is planning for the future. So that includes making a sinking fund for that fancy vacation I want to go on, setting a little bit of money aside for that. It includes figuring out kind of like my long-term goals of like, do I need to set money aside for a down payment, for a car down payment, things like that. And then really just understanding where all of that money is going. And also setting a little aside for myself. If $100,000 fell on my lap, like I should be able to treat myself to, 5% of that. And that should be spending that is just fun, frivolous. I get to enjoy it.
It's a great answer.
You know what? Hell yeah. I love that.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
You know what? Hell yeah.
What are some of the best resources our listeners can go find, be it yours or otherwise? I think a lot of people want to see it visually or just like work through whether it's models or calculators, those types of things.
Yeah, I absolutely love Investopedia. It's Wikipedia for investments. And the issue with finance really isn't that it's like complicated or only smart people understand. It's just like, it's like speaking a different language. There's so much jargon. Yeah. And what's really helpful with Investopedia is that if there's a word that you don't understand, you can literally search it up and it'll give you the full detailed breakdown of exactly what it means in layman's terms.
Vivian, you've been incredible. Where can our listeners hear more from you?
Where can they find you? All the places,
everything.
Place, all of it.
You can find me all over social media as Your Rich BFF. I have a New York Times bestselling book that you can read. It's called Rich AF, The Winning Money Mindset That'll Change Your Life. And you can also listen to my podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, called Networth and Chill.
Which you should all do. All the Motorheads should go check that out.
Vivian, you've been incredible. Thank you for coming on Demoted.
Thank you. And by the way, you're our first virtual guest. So hopefully this wasn't like too wonky or weird or clunky on your end. Yeah, I think this is going to be great. This is amazing content.
You're fabulous.
No, not at all. Wasn't weird, wasn't wonky, had so much fun, and glad that I've been demoted.
Yay!
No, we're promoting you. We'll promote you. We'll promote you.
Thank you, Vivian. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Vivian.
You too. Bye, guys.
That was amazing.
She's incredible.
That just fires me up. I mean, like I didn't make any money on this episode, but I feel richer.
I do feel richer.
I feel like fired up to watch money grow, make more money.
This podcast is still a sinking hole.
Sinking red ship.
Right. This takes all of our money and we'll keep it that way.
Our flag is a red pirate flag to represent the financial distress.
Outside of this, I'm excited to invest. I have a financial advisor.
Yep.
Someone who manages all my money for me. And it was one of the first things I did when I started making money with corporate Natalie, because I was like, I don't know how to do this. This is not a core competency of mine. And I don't have the time right now to teach myself.
Yeah.
And so it's a luxury that I was able to afford to get a financial advisor.
Well, it's scary too. I think a lot of people are like, my money, like I don't want to, the joke that they put in the pillowcase, stuff it under the bed. Like to let somebody else manage it too is a scary thing.
And I have an empowered female financial advisor.
I mean, you are a strictly female team. I am the only person.
You are the only man I work with,
yeah.
But she teaches me things along the way.
Yeah.
We work on building, like I have a wedding fund for myself. I have a house fund for myself. And I put percentages of every brand deal, every paycheck I get into each of those accounts.
That's what you should do.
And I think also Vivian mentioned robo-advisors.
Yeah.
This is more accessible now more than ever. It's
pretty much every brokerage has one.
Yep. You don't have to pay a person.
No, and you just pick your risk tolerance. How risky do you want like the diversification of it to be? Do you want to be more in individual stocks? Do you want to be more in mutual funds that track the market? There's a lot of ways you can do it and kind of dip your toe and you can say, hey, I'll put $5,000, $3,000, $1,000, start with one and just like see how it works and get a little bit more comfortable. I'm really fortunate that I come from a family that would discuss money and investing. My mom has, been in the financial services world for 40 years. And so I was exposed to it at an early age. It is such a game changer, such a life hack to build financial literacy. And the schools do not do enough of it.
I know Vivian actually talks about this. She's like, why do we learn about social studies and we never learn about personal finance?
Exactly. Don't get me wrong. I love the Roman Empire.
I do.
I love it.
AP US history. Oh.
But I didn't need to learn that much about the Saxon Wars. I think I could have stuck to a little bit more around like
how do I pay taxes?
Tax harvesting, tax advantaged accounts.
Yes.
Would have been dope. I just think like getting started with the conversations within your own family is a great place to start.
Yeah.
Making it comfortable. I mean, you're on the same team and like I always found it weird and Beck and I talked about this on our duo episode. It's just like I couldn't fathom not talking about finances with her.
Yes.
Like we're trying to get to the same place.
I know.
And
having that shared goal. Vivian also talks about like having those conversations early with your partner about what is the life we want to create together.
Yeah.
And how are we going to get there?
Yeah.
And if you feel like you're alone, just screaming into this echo chamber alone of yourself and your own thoughts, and you don't have the person closest to you to talk to that about, it's a scary, isolating feeling.
Yeah. You got to work on that shit. You do.
Yeah.
You do. It's like, that's what she said. You know, she's like, we don't fight that much. You know, there's two things people fight about, sex and money. And like, we talk about money. And I was like, well, what about the other? So I was about to say
too, but I didn't want to.
I know, it's too early. Like, should we unpack that other half?
Yeah.
It's funny because I used to have a glass of wine every night.
Really?
Yes. But then I decided to switch to something new.
And is that because you were so caught up in your lack of financial literacy?
Yes.
That you would turn to the bottle?
It was sort of make my investments easier to stomach
when
I was placing trades.
But what do you do now?
I'm making healthier choices here in 2025. All right. So I am going with the cornbread CBD gummies.
You're swapping alcohol for a guilt-free option?
That's exactly what I'm going to do. It's America's only USDA approved organic gummy.
It's real THC, no synthetics.
Right. And that's a huge thing for me. Like synthetic stuff, I actually am allergic to.
You are?
Yes, dead serious. I get the worst, like, stuffy nose. I can tell. And I got to throw it out, and it sucks.
Huge waste.
Cornbread don't do it to me.
No.
All I'm saying is alcohol doesn't have to be the default anymore.
So if you're looking for a healthier way to relax and have a good time, you got to try Cornbread's THC gummies.
Right now, Demoted listeners can save 30% on their first order if they go to cornbreadhemp.com/demoted.
And use code DEMOTED at checkout.
That's cornbreadhemp.com/demoted, code DEMOTED, Cornbread Hemp.
This is the good life. Should we get into promoted or demoted?
Let's do some promo demo.
Love it.
Loan sharks.
So can you explain this to me?
Loan sharks are just like
someone who loans you money and then like has an insane
interest rate and like just kind of screws you. Yeah. Like you're so desperate. They hunt desperate people, and like people who need the money now. You got a gambling problem. I got to pay these guys back. Yeah, sure. I'll give you 10 grand right now.
I'd say
30% interest
no
rate.
way.
No, though. I mean, they can jack it up because people are desperate. So it's like, I need the money now to survive today, and I will worry about the rest later.
I say donate plasma first.
Yeah, donate semen.
Donate semen, donate plasma, donate your eggs. I'm kidding. I'm not going to advise on any of that. But loan sharks, I'm going to demote.
I'm going to demote.
Promoted or demoted, static electricity.
I love it. I think about it all the time.
When my hair is sticking up on my head.
When I used to rub a balloon on my head and have it stick, and I was like, look at that. Look at me. There's a balloon on my head.
Ross and I, the class clowns, the jesters.
Yeah, holding it up here. I was like...
We're like in pain doing things for a laugh.
Everything we touch shocks us after that.
Worth it. Promoted for sure.
Promoted or
demoted entrepreneurship porn.
Demoted. That's LinkedIn. It's so much of LinkedIn.
It's like you have to do your own thing.
Right.
You got to break the cycle, start your own company, quit your job.
It's like this weird fake hustle culture, like build the life you want, like, which it makes sense in theory, but it's like all a bunch of fake, like it's all posturing and just so cliche, like so cringy. It's corny.
And I like what Vivian said, because I think we're asked a lot, like, when should I quit and become a content creator? Vivian talks about like, we have 5 good years where we're making a lot of money, doing really well.
I was going to go in on that too. I was like, wait, are you saying I'm old? You saying I'm going to be ugly? What are you saying?
Wait, what do you mean?
I'm not relevant anymore?
But we're very successful creators. Most content creators make less than $15,000 a year, and they have to have their full-time job. So I'm not going to advise someone chase this dream. It'll work for you too.
Right.
Because I can't guarantee that.
Of course. Of course. Especially in certain niches, you're just like, I would keep going the path you're going. See if you can get to a certain threshold. You make, 100K in a year, whatever. You pick a number, 80K, 70K. When you hit that, then like make your jump. But that's only if you feel comfortable doing that. It's too risky for me to advise. It's like financial advice.
Too risky.
I can't tell you what to invest in. I'll tell you what I did, and you can decide if you want to do that.
Yep.
But I am not telling you to do that. Let's be clear. All right. Promoted, demoted, parking in San Francisco.
I bought a white car. Speaking of things I shouldn't have bought, I bought a white car, and the Audi is white. Yeah. And it has full scratch marks and ding marks all along the sides.
You're such a white car person.
I don't know why I got a white car.
Because they do look fucking awesome when they're clean and not dinged up. Like the first 4 days you have it, they look so nice.
The first 4 days, my car was sick. Now I hate her. I'm actually like, how do I wrap the car in black? Because
this has been a stressful thing for you. I know.
It's been
your
really
relationship
stressful.
with this Audi.
My relationship with this Audi.
Yeah, it's tough.
And actually, this is kind of a fun thing that I'll share with the pod listeners. I just bought my mom a car.
Nice.
I bought her a new Mercedes. So that was like a very cool milestone for me
Yeah.
to be able to do that for the person I love most in this world. Of course she did.
Oh.
She calls me crying like every day since I have. She's like, I just love this car so much. Thank you. And I feel so fortunate to be able to do that.
That's sweet.
Okay. Promoted or demoted, Lumen Industries company culture.
Promote.
Severance.
Promoted. If you haven't watched Severance, go watch it. It's such a great show. It's just really artfully done. I'll get into the whole
Have you watched episode 4?
Yeah.
Apple TV gave Ross and I the first bite.
Yeah, which means every 2 weeks we get 2 additional weeks, so we get like an extra episode each time they drop.
And I drop that. I never brag about my career.
I know.
I drop that I've seen an episode ahead of
my
Severance
friends are talking about it. I'm
every
like,
conversation.
You should wait for the next one.
Just wait till you get to episode 4.
Wait till episode 4 and you're like, what show is this?
It's not out yet. What do you mean?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, Apple gives us the bite.
Yeah, we get the first bite of the apple. And
it's just delicious. All right, so that's promo demo. Let's read a review, get some people out of here, do a couple shout outs, and I'll hit this one. It's just titled So Freaking Funny. I was a big fan of both you individually on Instagram, so when I heard that you had a podcast together, I nearly spit out my coffee. I'm a huge fan of podcasts, but I'm very selective and have my small selection of favorites, which I religiously listen to. You guys quickly snuck into my top 3, and I binge listened to every single episode from the very first one. I wish you guys would put out daily episodes because I caught up and feel an empty void, LOL. Shout out to Becca for being an awesome BTS biz partner and wife for Ross. Oh, nice. Your whole team is so great. Thanks for the content. Me and 9 other people listening are really into it. Hashtag D-gang.
Thank you. I love that.
The other 9.
The lore that we have 4 people listening is so funny.
And the number just keeps getting lower.
Maybe that's why we don't get sponsors, because they believe that.
Yeah.
They're like, well, they say they have 4 listeners.
No, they've literally quoted.
They've quoted that they have 4 listeners. Yeah. That's so funny.
God. All right, hit us with some shout outs.
Couple shout outs. Shout out to my husband, Gilbert, for his relentless work ethic and dedication. Why am I laughing at Gilbert?
I know. It's like people still do that. People still name their kid Gilbert. Like, come on.
Like, oh my God. Shout out to you, Gilbert. He's been with the company since 2007, and it's in 2023, he took the leap and became its owner. Since then, he's done it all, running machines, managing operations, leading his team, and handling customers, making sure everything gets done no matter what it takes. He works harder than anyone I know, long hours, and tackles every challenge head on. His drive's unmatched, and it's always been my favorite thing about him. Thank you for everything you do. I'm so proud to be your wife. All-in-one HR and CFO.
All-in-one HR, CFO. But, either way. Yeah, Natalie, you did such a good job. It was just that last word. We're not going to have you reread it.
I thought her name was Allison or something.
It could have been. All-in-one HR and CFO. She's doing a lot too.
She is doing a lot too. Proud wife. Gilbert, we freaking love you.
And I hope you go by Gil. All right, number 2. Shout out to my rock, my ride or die, and my other half, Taylor, which is Taylor with an E. On your promotion, you've been grinding and killing it these past few years, and this recognition is so well deserved. The girls and I are beyond proud of the professional badass you become. Thank you for being the smartest, kindest, hottest, and most supportive wife, mom, and friend there ever was. We're so lucky to have you in our corner. Girl Dad 92.
This is so hot.
This Girl is Dad so 92. Hot. Can I watch?
A man who loves his wife. Like, there is nothing hotter. I'm serious. There's nothing hotter.
Taylor with an E.
I love you too. I want to be invited to dinner at your place, and maybe
I was gonna say you'd be Natalie with an E, but we already got one. Got one. You're good. All right. As always, send us your confessions. Send us your guest recommendations. Get financially literate with that like button.
Make that subscribe button financially literate.
Yeah.
Use a robo-advisor to smash that subscribe button.
So leave a comment on Spotify, to go to YouTube and watch it if you would like to.
Search Demoted on Investopedia.
Pay down that subscribe button on all platforms, including Apple. Use credit card points to leave us a comment on Spotify. And tune in next week on Demoted. Demoted.